Right.
Right. Everybody see okay?
Yep.
Cool. So like I said, I'm Cara and I'm the program coordinator at Partnership for National Trail System, and I'm actually an AmeriCorps Vista. And I've been with this organization for the past 2 years, and I'll be coming on full time in a couple weeks. So super excited about that. But I would recommend, doing AmeriCorps to try to get your foot in the door at these type of organizations, because it was really helpful for me. Let's see. All right. So today I'm just going to talk a little bit about just the National Trail System in general, and then a little bit of background on what my organization does and how we relate to the trail system. And then I wanted to just briefly talk about one of our next gen programs that I'm super excited about and kind of been working on for the past few years. So throughout history, trails have really served as routes for commerce, migration, and more recently, they've really been established to provide access to scenic places. Back, in the 1920s, the idea for the first interstate recreational trails began with the creation of what is now known as Appalachian National Scenic Trail. In the 1940s, legislation was first introduced to create a national system of foot trails, is what it was called. But it wasn't until around the 1950s that Congress conducted a nationwide survey of outdoor recreational needs. And then later in 1968, the National Trail System was established, and Appalachian Trail was the first trail in the system. And the whole point of the trail system was to preserve scenic, historical, cultural resources within the country, and to provide for outdoor recreation needs that were just ever increasing with an expanding population. And yeah, just really to address the needs of preservation, public access, travel, enjoyment, of the outdoors, and, for preserving historic resources as well. So like I said, the National Trail System started with the Appalachian Trail, and next was the Pacific Crest National Scenic Trail, if you've all heard of that. And so subsequent amendments to that act would go on until they're still going on to add additional trails to the system. And so let's see. There are 4 categories of trails within the National Trail System. We've got scenic trails, historic trails, recreation trails, and connecting or side trails. So the scenic trails are extended trails for outdoor recreation, for conservation and enjoyment. It says in the act that they have to provide scenic, historic, and natural or cultural benefits to the country. And so y'all know the North Country Scenic Trail, obviously. So that's, an example of a scenic trail. The historic trails are designated by Congress because they follow closely an original trail or route of, event or, something that happened in the history of this country. I just want to pose like a quick question to the group, if that's cool. Does anyone know off the top of their head any scenic or historic trails besides the Appalachian Trail, Pacific Crest Trail, and North Country Trail? I don't know if anybody knows any scenic or historic trails off the top of your head.
I was just about to type an example into the chat. The first thing that popped in my head was the Trail of Tears, National Historic Trail, which is actually really a sad one if you think about it.
Yeah. Commemorates a really, really horrendous event in the history. Yeah. Right. Cool. Let's see. So let's see. Yeah. Okay. So we had 30 national scenic and historic trails, but in the last like month or so, we've had 2 historic trails added. And Congress has designated those for, you know, their historic value to the country. Let's see. So recreation trails, I kind of went ahead. Oh well. Recreation trails, the purpose is just for outdoor recreation uses, and for, you know, accessibility to urban areas and on federal, state, and private lands. And those are actually designated by the Secretary of the Interior or the Secretary of Agriculture, as opposed to the scenic and historic that are designated by an act of Congress. And so right now there's more than 1,300 recreational trails all over the country. And I don't know if you've heard of the organization American Trails, but they kind of oversee all the rec trails. And additionally, the 4th category is the connecting or side trails. It's pretty self-explanatory. They're just provide additional points of access between the recreational, historic, and scenic trails. So we currently have 11 scenic trails and now 21 historic trails as part of the National Trail System. Yeah, just designated recently was the Butterfield Overland National Historic Trail. And this is over 3,000 miles, and it follows a route of the Butterfield Overland Mail Company, which I guess was pretty significant mail route, you know, back in our nation's history. So that's really interesting. It traverses like a ton of states. It goes really far across the country. And then the second one that was just designated is the Chilkoot Trail. And this is like a gold rush trail in Alaska. So that's really interesting too. And then there's other trails in the works too, you know, in Congress, such as the Route 66 trail, if anyone's heard of Route 66. So this is just like a quick give you an idea of how the trail system has grown periodically ever since the Trail System Act you know, was established in 1968. And so pretty much consistently every couple of years, trails are added to the system, which is pretty cool. So each national trail is administered by either the Secretary of the Interior, so that would be BLM, Bureau of Land Management, or National Park Service, or the Secretary of Agriculture, which is Forest Service. And so the Park Service administers the majority of trails. The Forest Service administers 4, BLM administers 2, but all of these agencies work really closely together on the trails. And as described in the National Trail System Act, each trail has a nonprofit partner that help co-manages the trail. And so that's where, you know, like the North Country Trail Association is the nonprofit partner that works with the federal agency that administers that trail. And so yeah, we have like the Appalachian Trail Conservancy that co-ministers that trail, and so on. So partnership and co-management is pretty much the whole basis for how the trail system runs. I'll just stop. I don't know if anyone has any questions or not at this point, just about how things are managed or just trails in general.
I was wondering if you could like talk about the Route 66 trail, because I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, I don't know a ton about it, but it was like one of the main highways that was established. I feel like around the 50s, maybe. I could be totally wrong though.
Like the Cars movie, like that.
Which one?
It like in Cars, the movie.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, they actually, in some of the background scenes in that movie are like exact like spots along that route, which is really cool. Yeah. And so there's all these like different historical motels and landmarks and all sorts of stuff along that route.
Um,
So yeah, that'll probably be designated sooner than later.
Neat.
does that trail follow the road then, or is it like separate with the road? Do you know?
I think it will pretty much follow the road. And that's
Okay.
something interesting about historic trails. A lot of them aren't just like scenic hiking trails. A lot of them will follow water routes. They'll follow auto routes. So, parts of them, you know, you drive on, and so it can be a mix too, which is really interesting. Or sometimes they don't fully connect and they can just be different historical landmarks, along the trail in different areas, but it doesn't necessarily connect with like a walking foot trail type thing. Cool. So I just put this together. You all know how awesome trails are and how important they are, but just some quick things, just about how cool the National Trail System is. So let's see, what did I want to say? So the National Trail System links 70 wildlife refuges, 80 national parks, 90 Bureau of Land Management areas, 90 national forests, 123 wilderness areas, connects 100 major metropolitan urban areas, and more than 230 million people live within 60 miles of a national trail, which is really cool. So it connects, rural, suburban, or urban, all sorts of different places in the country. And trails connecting landscapes and people, connecting people to historic sites, scenic places, provides, unmeasurable recreational and health benefits to the communities around them. The outdoor recreation economy provides millions of jobs. Of course, there's climate resiliency and protecting these lands, old growth forests, and then just preserving stories of the diverse cultures and historic events that happened in this country too is a really important thing that the National Trails provide. All right, so a little bit about PNTS, which is the organization I'm with. So for the past 30 years, PNTS has served as a connector, a collective voice, and a resource for the National Trail System. And so we are a 501c3 nonprofit focused on the National Scenic Historic Trails, and we are really a membership organization for the National Scenic and Historic Trail nonprofit groups. And we work closely with the agency partners that also manage those trails. And really, we serve to provide collective advocacy, to provide resources, and really to ensure a thriving, accessible, and inclusive trail system. So we have events, like Hike the Hill, if any of you have heard of that, coming up, where we're doing a ton of advocacy on behalf of all the trails. And we put together workshops, webinars, trainings. We put together, other programs and resources and tools and things like that to help benefit the trails. And so this is just a quick overview of some of the activities that we work on. So yeah, some of the things we do, we provide grant money for trails to hire interns for projects on their trails. And a lot of trails with smaller staff and who are all volunteer would never be able to, hire interns for projects. And so we provide things like that. Maps, tools. We just put together an awesome map with our Indigenous Mapping and Research project, where we mapped all the different ancestral lands that overlap with the National Trail System. And it's really going to be an awesome tool for the trail organizations and the agency partners to engage and consult with Indigenous groups along the trails. So we put together stuff like that. let's see. This is just a quick thing of some stuff we've done in the past year. And really volunteer involvement is insanely crucial to the system. You know, volunteer leadership from nonprofit organizations, you know, to help the partnership run, and then also just volunteers on the ground is really, really crucial to the health of the trail system. And so I just wanted to quickly talk about our Next Gen Trail Apprentice program. This is something I've been working on since I got here a couple of years ago. And so the Trail Apprentice program provides scholarships to young people interested in a career in recreation, environmental studies, conservation, history, or related fields, so that they can attend our annual National Trails Workshop and participate in other activities, educational networking, such as that. So back when I started, this program was mostly just a way to get young people to our workshops. And then over the past couple of years, it really evolved to include, well, kind of because of COVID too, virtual sessions that included career exploration, and then some additional activities. And then this year, it's going to be more leadership development focused. So the apprentices will work with one of the committees at PNTS, whether it be advocacy and policy, programs committee, to work on a project and really get hands-on experience working with an organization and you know, trail partners and agencies, and learning about the work that we actually do day to day in those groups. And so we're still going to do some career exploration as well, where the apprentices get to meet established professionals in different disciplines within the trails community too. So that's exciting. And then of course they'll be at the workshop, and that is in November in Orlando, Florida, which will be super cool. And then I just wanted to put a little plug to that. Actually, applications for the 2023 program are open right now. And they close February 28th. So if you're interested, or you are able to forward the opportunity to anyone you know that might be interested, please let me know, and I'd love to forward that to you. And then any questions you have about the program too, let me know.
What are some of the requirements to apply?
Yeah, so basically just an interest in the trail system, you know, an interest in conservation, environmental studies, history. We do have an age recommendation, 18 to 28 years old. And then other than that, just being able to attend committee meetings and work on tasks in between, and attend like 80% of the virtual sessions. So there's more details about it on our website, but overall, I would say like maybe 10 hours or less per month type of thing. And then attendance at the workshop in November is required as well. And PNTS pays for the travel to and from, and per diem for meals and lodging and everything like that. But yeah.
So the way that you said age recommendation, does that mean that people who are older than 28 can apply? Or is that a requirement?
They can. Yeah, we really are looking for people specifically in that age range.
Okay.
Yeah, so if somebody's really exceptional and they're outside that age range, we might consider them, but we're mostly looking for people within that range.
Good to know.
Yeah.
And now is a great time to ask any questions that you might have about the National Trail System or whatever.
I had a question and it had to do with, I think, the second to last slide. Is it possible to pull that back up?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry.
You are all good. Give me one sec. The slide with all the stats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one. Okay, so I guess I was interested in knowing about the scholarships. So is that specifically the one that we just talked about with the trail stewardship one, or are there other scholarships that you have? And if so, could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that's just for the Trail Apprentice Program scholarships.
Okay.
And so that includes pretty much the scholarship is just for the attendance and participation at the workshop.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question in terms of like how this organization is built. Is there like a membership that exists? Like can like volunteers become like a member of the partnership just to like, you know, for other opportunities or access to more information? Or is it just like everything is online, open to the public at all times?
Yeah, that's the super good question. So each of the nonprofit trail organizations pay an annual membership due. And so they are technically our members.
So like the North Country Trail Association is a member of okay.
Yep. And so to our members, we, you know, provide the tools. The members participate in our committees. So advocacy and policy, programs, finance, fundraising, things like that. So they run those. We have a Trail Leaders Council, which has one member from each of the nonprofit trail organizations that come together to help, you know, discuss priorities that each of the trails, you know, are looking to accomplish, and just kind of steer what they want the organization to do to help them collectively. And so we do also have affiliate memberships, and those are usually organizations that we work really closely with, but they're not those nonprofit trail groups for the scenic and historic trails. And we do have an option for individual members, but it's usually, again, people that work very, very closely with the trail system. But there is a ton of resources and tools and stuff that is open to the public on our website too, that's not just exclusive to trail members.
And the PNTS puts on like a really great selection of webinars, like informational, educational webinars. And those, I believe, you can just sign up for and like watch. And I've attended like a bunch of them. They've been really great. So if you're looking for anything like that, I think they have recordings on their website. And then every now and then I include that in the email that I send out to everybody.
Thank you so much for saying that. Appreciate that. I'm trying to make our webinars better as we go, but yeah, I put together a webinar archive on our website, and a bunch of past workshop things are in there. You can find everything from youth engagement to you know, Indigenous engagement and consultation, storytelling, different GIS mapping tools for trails. There's like a ton of stuff in there.
In November, there was like one specific one of about, I have it pulled up, so I'm just going to read the title. Engagement and education with the Indigenous Mapping and Research Project. And it's basically talks about the there was like an intern or something at some point that did this whole project where you could see like what indigenous lands fall across like all the different national scenic trails and stuff. And I thought that was so cool. And I'm excited to learn more about that, but yeah.
Yeah, that project was awesome. Yeah, it's just so important because ancestral lands are so much wider areas than the actual, tribal or reservation lands that are recognized. And so without including the ancestral lands, a lot of people who have a stake in that land that you're doing a project or going through or whatever, they're not, engaged or consulted. And so, yeah, it's going to be really awesome for trails and agencies to use going forward.
Cool. Last call for questions. Otherwise, we're gonna let Cara go for the evening. But I have a few things to talk to everybody about before we all go. So
I just have one last question about you personally. Do
Sure.
you and just like, how did you end up in this position? Like, does your educational background in conservation or anything like outdoor related, or was it more like programming and like leadership focused?
So before this position, I had zero programming experience. I got my bachelor's degree in environmental studies. I was like, oh, I know I love the outdoors and I care about it. Don't really know what I want to do, but I just kind of found myself really into trying to do something about climate change after I graduated. And so I kind of got involved with Citizens Climate Lobby, and did some little bit of it's just like all volunteer, like lobbying and research and other stuff to support them. And then I had such a hard time finding a job, to be completely honest. It was really rough, but I moved to DC, and I ended up getting an internship with a nonprofit, their Chesapeake Climate Action Network. And they do a lot of law and policy and advocacy stuff in Maryland, DC, and Virginia. And so that was super cool. But I was like, this is intense and it's kind of depressing. But I still care a lot about climate mitigation, but I don't know if I want to keep doing this. And so after applying to probably 200 other jobs, I eventually found this one on AmeriCorps, and I was like, I don't really know if I want to do AmeriCorps, but I applied and got into it, and I don't know, it just clicked, and I ended up loving it. And so I stayed in AmeriCorps for 2 years with them. And yeah, I really enjoy doing the next gen programs and putting together all the webinars and working with people behind the scenes. But yeah, so just, I don't know, just worked out, I guess. But I had no idea I wanted to go in this direction.
I don't actually know a lot about AmeriCorps. Could you talk a little bit about like how do you even get started with something like that?
Yeah, so there's just like on the AmeriCorps website, they have a bunch of different opportunities posted all around the country. And really the projects there's a couple different purposes of them, but the main purpose of AmeriCorps programs is poverty alleviation. And so there's tons of different projects all over the place. Usually they're in person, but because of COVID, a lot of virtual opportunities popped up. And so the organization that I got hired through is called Conservation Legacy. And they are a program underneath AmeriCorps. And so they focus more on like environmental related projects and things like that too. So they were a great organization. They provide training to the members and just different resources and webinars, and it's just like additional support in addition to the organization that you're placed at. So I was technically placed at this organization to fulfill a specific project.
Cara, you did like AmeriCorps Vista, right?
Oh yeah, Vista, yeah.
So I did AmeriCorps too. That's like kind of how, I don't know, I had a really awful time finding jobs in the pandemic, as I'm sure anybody who needed a job then did. But I did an AmeriCorps program too. The Vista program is a little bit different than like some of the other ones that they do. So I did the Conservation Corps. And that one is like, if you're trying to get your hands dirty and your entire self dirty, that's the one that you should do. I really liked doing it, but you have to be like ready for what you're signing up for, especially with like Conservation Corps.
Yeah, definitely. I know there's a bunch of different conservation corps all over the country too, that do different hands-on projects.
Yeah, I did mine in Las Vegas.
Oh, cool.
Mhm.
Was it like trail building or like
It was a
invasive
whole bunch of
species?
different stuff. I have like a lot of conflicting opinions about AmeriCorps. Like, I'm really thankful for like the start that it gave me and like experience and like exposure to natural resources and whatever networking, but like the actual program was pretty terrible. They don't pay you minimum wage. They like say they're giving you an education bonus. Okay.
Which you're taxed on.
Yes, exactly. You're
Yeah.
taxed on it later. And like for me, I lived out of a car for 3 months. Like it was fun. I chose to do that. But like not everybody is like privileged enough to be paid less than minimum wage. And then
Yeah.
like whenever, like you have a problem with your tent, for example, and it collapses and they're like, well, that sucks. You have to go buy a new tent because like that's your required gear. But
Yeah.
it's like $200 for a new tent. So and there, like, I don't know, there's some like organizational things I don't like about it, but like during my interview they said, okay, you're gonna be like trail building. I didn't build trail one time. I was like picking up garbage in the desert for like multiple weeks, which is like also still important, and it was like fun and I really liked my crew and stuff, but like misleading. But anyway, sorry, I got on.
No, I
about
appreciate you
AmeriCorps.
saying that. Yeah, I was really fortunate to be placed with this organization, but how they underpay people is super, super concerning. I have struggled with that personally, honestly, the past 2 years, but I was just so desperate to
Yeah.
find something and to continue in there and build myself up that, thankfully I had family that, allowed me to stay with them, but
Yeah.
it's, yeah, definitely not
Good information to
equitable at
know.
all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like if you can do it and make it work for a while, it's like a really cool experience. Like I like went abroad and then I did AmeriCorps, and like those two experiences were like really wild in different ways and really good for me in different ways. But yeah, they wanted me to come back and do it again, and I was like, that won't be happening. But thank you for being here.
Yeah, I feel that.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for your presentation and for joining us tonight. Definitely very informational. And if you have like any resources that you want to share with the group, you can just email them to me and I can forward them on. Yeah, just thanks for coming on tonight.
Well, yeah, thanks for having me. It's nice to meet you all.
You too.
Have a good night.